This conference will now be recorded.
So were there 7 or 6 after Jen resigned?
No, because we were just missing Tom and Buchart.
All right, so we got 4 out of 6, right?
Either way, you're a majority.
Yeah. I just need to wrap my head around. I was in all day in tax school, so I'm a little bit.
We were in training all day.
Yeah,
He does.
it's just wonderful. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. And we do have a quorum. So is there a motion to it? Or are there any changes to the agenda, Kurt?
Yeah, we're going to add, we have another
Oh,
citizen who would like to join the planning commission, and their information was added to the packet today.
we'll discuss that under
6A and a half.
6A and a half. All right, sounds good. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second or first?
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, carries 4-0-0, right? Or, yeah. Okay, minutes from November 9th.
I'll make the motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of Wednesday, November 9th at 5:30.
The agenda too is misstated somehow. Motion Venus staggered Venus to adopt. Should be staggered second probably.
Yep,
Oh, Steger instead of second.
yep. I'll do as corrected.
Otherwise, is that oh, keep going. You're fine. Keep going. Oh, did you second?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, okay. I thought you were still reading. So second with that change. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Carries. Next. See, I was in tax school. I'm sorry. No public hearings, no old business. 6A, Jen Prince replacement Connie Boyd.
And you can see in the packet, there's a letter of interest from a citizen named Connie Boyd, who was a resident of Zumbrota, moved away, has moved back, interested in becoming a part of city government, helping out. And she's very eager to join. And being the end of the year, sounds like a good time. So just FYI, because that'll just go to the mayor or to council to approve, right? Okay.
Go to the appointments, yep.
And then 6A and a half.
On the same, we have a replacement for Joan, because Joan got elected to council. If you flip over the next page, you can see Kimberly Jensen submitted a letter of interest, is anxious to be a part of the planning commission as well, which will be great because that'll fill our 2 open spots for starting in January.
Sounds good. Yeah, she used to be a co-owner of the Bartow House, right? Yep.
Bed and
Bartow.
breakfast. Bartow
Oh.
House.
She at the time as well, but they ran that Bartow House for years. Bed and breakfast, so.
All right. Then 6B, bulk collision variance.
Do we need a motion for them to recommend?
I don't know if we've
Good.
we've maybe historically done it, but I really honestly don't think we have any say. I mean, are we going to reject somebody? That's fine. Sure, I'll go with it. Let's do it. Is there a motion to recommend the council to bring Connie Boyd and Kim Jensen on board?
I would make that motion.
All right, discussion. Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carries. Now the fault collision variance.
Right, there's a full collision located at 220 West First.
Right behind the library, right up here on Blue Street. And Jay came in looking for a variance. As you can flip through your packet, you'll see a map and a artist rendition, which is not the final rendition of what his garage may look like eventually. What he's asking for a variance is to build the garage, and the variance will be from the fact that, let's see here, that's correct. His garage currently sits, let's say this. His garage will, there we go. So his new building will actually sit back a little bit off of the front, so its setbacks go back a little bit. But they're digging into the setbacks. This is labeled as Industry 2. As you can see in the memo, what our setbacks are for industry, it'll obviously fit, it'll go inside the front and rear setbacks. He does have literature from the DNR as far as the back setback with the river should be fine. It's just a very unique situation of where it's located in the city. But he wants to expand his building, expand his business in that setting. The height of the building will be fine. The square coverage in that lot are fine. It's the setbacks. You can see in the picture here of what his current looks like and what it will look like, and then 10-foot setbacks. That's what he's applying for a variance from us,
For both front and rear?
front and rear.
He already has one for the rear. He said that was approved before.
For that building or the other one?
Well, it's
No, I
only
think
that, there's only that building on that lot.
for a number of years, back when
Oh, okay.
Dan was here even.
Yeah.
And ran into a snag. Didn't do it then, but, so he's gonna tear down that yellow building that's there now, the old ugly yellow building. Build a brand new one, and the corner of this new one would be no closer to the front lot line than the existing building is. Probably a little bit farther back.
Odd shaped lot, where there was no problem finding practical difficulty or hardship, whatever the requirement was back then.
Buy some of that back there, but the other owner wasn't interested in that, but he was very interested in saying, fine, do an easement back there.
And I attached literature on the back of the map from the county about compliance with his buffer rule, being with that close to the river. He complies.
His floodplain wise, he just needs to be, it could be an inch above the floodplain level, and it's gonna be higher than that, so.
And there's an elevation certificate listed, put on there as well.
A little bit with this, to give us some guidance too, the city engineer.
So schedule a hearing, or what are we looking to do? Public hearing at, when's the January meeting? At 5:35?
Second it.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, carries. And then we're on to 6C.
And this is something that I've come across lately. People informing the position I'm in have added some things to the zoning. And I guess my question, I brought it to the plan and zoning itself. And I gave an example on the, like, for example, decks here, and they've added letter F. Does it have to go through zoning, you guys, to clear it before it goes into the book permanently? Or can the previous planning and zoning person, such as myself, I'm not going to randomly add things to this book. But like, for example, this piece of paper I did not have, and I got from Roger and Casey later. And now it's in the book permanently for like added letter F about decks. In the future, if something comes up with zoning, an issue that's kind of an archaic or an old zone topic, should I bring it to the plan and zoning to talk about?
That's what we're for.
And then I think council has to approve it after that.
Yeah, there needs to be, to amend the zoning ordinance, we need to do a public hearing and everything. I think, if I remember correctly, though, we've been sort of in that fuzzy area of going with an interpretation that is logical to our building inspector under the assumption that someday we're going to be entertaining an actual amendment to make it so, right?
Yeah, the background on this is, we had a deck up in the Woodlands. And Kurt was actually going to bring it to planning and zoning for a variance. But being, it's considered an accessory structure, a deck is, and can be built up to the property line, basically, even though it's attached to the house. So that was what it said. There wasn't any interpretation to be made that this deck would be okay. And they weren't even that close to the property line, but however close they were, it was going to be allowed through the zoning without even a variance at all. Well, I went to the building inspectors and said, hey, wait a minute. There was this document and they provided us this. And we're like, well, gee, we didn't have that in our book. Oh yeah, this was discussed, when the previous community development director was here. And this is what the inspectors see in other communities on how these things are dealt with. And it makes sense. So the question is, do we want to add it? And the process to do that, if we want to add it.
This whole subdivision 3 has gone through multiple amendments and it's kind of ends up being a hodge, but probably made sense way back. And then occasionally to avoid always having to grant variances for things that didn't make sense. I think over the years, there were occasional amendments here and there, and now they've kind of stacked on top of each other. And now it's just pretty cumbersome to wade through. And like, for instance, why wasn't R1 addressed in 3C? But all of this stuff was, I have to say, I've thought through. It wasn't just random hodgepodge. So there was some reasoning behind all of this, and I'm sure the planning commission spent too much time discussing it. But after years goes by, it's like you don't even remember the reasoning of the rationale, or is there some cross-reference in the zoning ordinance that we felt like, well, R1's covered in this other section, so we don't have to worry about it here, whether it's a footprint issue or whatever. But at some point, it's like, well, maybe we just need to do a complete redo, which that would probably take more energy and effort than maybe we're prepared to do right now. So if we just want to do yet another Band-Aid approach to, with some of these notes, I guess that's all right. But maybe we just need to, at some point in time, take a broader look at the way all of this reads and make it a little bit more sensical for somebody in Kurt's position to wade through.
If we wanted to request planning commission to consider adding this part, would a formal memo, at the next meeting requesting that and some background reasoning and then consideration and I suppose a public hearing and.
Yeah, we'll just have to, there's a section in our subdivision ordinance or zoning ordinance that talks about amendments and what needs to be done and whether it's initiated by the commission or council or an outside party, we consider it, we come up with language, then I think this commission holds public hearing instead of council, but then council would approve it, just like an ordinance. Yeah,
And it's not specific to any area, so we won't have to send out 3,000 letters. Well,
right. That's right. Yeah, I think that's probably addressed too in the amendment section. Yeah.
And I think this one makes sense. The whole adding theoretically a wood deck on the back of your house that goes all the way to the property line is kind of going against the spirit of the, combustibles or getting closer to the property line. If there's a fire, there's a good chance it's going to spread. It's not a roof, but.
Is there still a 5-foot rule in code?
Yep. And that has to do with openings and rated walls and things like that. So it would have to be, if it's but the way it's worded here, it's considered an accessory structure, even though it's attached to the house.
We've adopted state building code, so.
So that would supersede, or,
at least-
yeah, theoretically, you
least
could
apply.
enforce a 5-foot rule, for sure.
Yeah.
Unless they want to put up a firewall or make it non-combustible. I had a couple of those where we made it non-combustible. So then it wasn't, it was rated at that point. But, yeah. All right, so we'll kick that around and maybe bring it back with the formal proceedings, starting at the next meeting, just to get that in here.
Yeah, at some point over the last X number of years, I think there's been other notations being made about we're going to amend this or change this, and it's always added to the list. I don't know, at some point, do we pull the trigger on a lot of that stuff and formally adopt it?
Yeah, I know a rewrite of a zoning ordinance is a big deal. I think Rochester took 4 years on theirs
Yeah.
and lots of consultants. And it was, so now ours is not nearly as in-depth, of course, but I think there's more energy to make it better as we go, at least right now.
I don't know if if we're going to be calling a public hearing on the subdivision ordinance, whether there's other notes in somebody's file on other things that need to be tweaked at the same time, or do we just limit it to this? I just can't remember.
We'll kind of look through and you can pick Dylan's brain to see if he has any other notes anywhere that.
Sure. Okay. So we'll pick it up at the next meeting. All right. So no probably action need to be taken on that, right?
More question.
Yeah. Oh, what else? Anybody else have anything?
I had a question. I see in here it says that any accessory building should be located at least 10 feet away from any other building. The people that moved into Lawlers moved a storage unit there, and it's between the street and the garage, and that's not any 10 feet. They could just barely get through there to walk through there. I mean, what happens at that point in time when we find something like that that's already established? Pardon? No, it's a pretty good size. It's right along the street there. It's along 9th Street, and then their door faces Lally. It's right on that corner. Yeah, but I don't know. What do you do when you find something like that?
File a complaint and get.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me, but
I mean,
I noticed
that's how
this-
we deal with it. If you file a complaint, then we'd go to the homeowner. We'd send the chief up there and say, hey.
move your shed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's kind of a goofy code thing too, because if it's a garage and a shed, theoretically, if you built that thing off the garage attached to it, No problem.
It's like something that they pulled in there.
yeah, I know,
Have you
but,
been by there?
yeah, but it's the same use as a garage. So if it's attached to it, you still have it. What's the difference if it's sitting next to it? You know, and it's always the logical question. The code, code interpretation is one thing, but if you were putting something like that next to a sleeping room, well, then that might be a little bit different, but
And what's the reason for the rule, basically? Is it just aesthetics, or is there some other,
I think if it catches on fire,
is that part of
probably a
it?
fire thing.
You're far enough that it'll take a lot of heat to catch on.
And does it matter whether it's more portable or on skids versus not?
If it's 200 square feet or less, we don't even see it because there's no zoning certificate, no permit required.
Yeah.
If we get a permit, we can articulate that. That's got to be 5 feet away. But again, if they took the same structure and attached it, if they put it next to it and screwed it to the garage, probably would be legal per code.
Yeah.
So,
It's a nice looking little shed. Right on the corner and really close to his garage. And we still have semis going up and down our street, of course, to Greenstead. Quite often. Oh, yeah, 18-wheelers, huge ones, yeah, that really crash when they kind of go down the street, yeah. Mhm.
Anything else?
That's all I've got.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
53.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and bury myself in my computer system.
Bye.